Hello, movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, the podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about a new drama series starring Charlie Hunnam called Shantaram. Now, I'm only 2 episodes into this series so far, but I am definitely enjoying it. This series is based on a 2003 novel by Gregory David Roberts, and it is about some of the adventures that Robert has. So this is actually a true story. Now, Roberts broke out of prison in New Zealand in the 1980s and found his way to Bombay, kind of escaping, obviously, having broken out of prison. So he's really on the run in Bombay during the 1980s. And the entire plot of the series is basically everything that he gets into or winds up happening to him while he's essentially just trying to start over and have a new life. By the time that you are introduced to him, you do get to see him like breaking out of prison and how that happens. He gets a fake passport, changes his name to Lindsay Ford, and ends up in Bombay, where he immediately settles into kind of what I would consider a sketchy crowd. Now, Gregory David Roberts, because this is based on a true story, definitely reminds me very much of the type of person who has good intentions, but always somehow ends up in a bad situation. So it's one of those sort of scenarios of sometimes the worst things are done with the best of intentions. That is exactly what this show reminds me of. As I said earlier, I am actually enjoying the series quite a bit. This is what I would call a breath of fresh air. With Hollywood today, where everything is kind of a reboot or a retelling, or they're just changing something old and making it, different, and I'm using air quotes there. Shantaram is completely its own entity. I don't recall there ever being a show based on this man's life before. So Shantaram is just kind of its own entity, and it brings something completely new to the table. And it's actually quite interesting. There's a lot of political deception. There's a lot of, drugs that are happening, and the Bombay police enforcement of the time, which I have a feeling was a bit corrupt. I'm not entirely familiar with Bombay in the 1980s. I wasn't born until 1983, so a lot of what happened in like the 80s and some of the early 90s, I was just blissfully unaware because I was a very young child during that time. And as is, I've never been to India, so I don't know much about the political landscape there or what was happening really during that era. So all of this is very new to me. I find it very interesting and exciting to watch, just to kind of see how someone who essentially is trying to build a better life for himself, and he goes somewhere where he thinks that he essentially can get lost and really not have to worry about a lot of the problems that he's left behind. And it sort of is kind of that what is it that they say? You can run from your problems, but you can't escape them. Like, your problems will always follow you. And this definitely reminds me of that. It definitely seems like everywhere this guy goes, something terrible is going to happen to him. Of course, I don't only enjoy this because Charlie Hunnam is in it. There are a lot of really great actors and actresses in this. There's actually an actor by the name of Shubham Saraf who plays kind of this guy that meets Lynn Ford right as he comes off of the boat into Bombay, and is just one of those people that's like, I can show you around, and ends up becoming really great friends with Lynn Ford. And he always has a smile on his face. His character is very interesting. He's trying to help, Lynn sort of stay out of trouble, and shortens his name. He's like, we can't call you Lindsay. Like, nobody's going to take you serious. We have to call you Lynn. It's a very good name to have. And there are a lot of really great actresses in this as well. A lot of them really are kind of more unknown names to me, and I find that very exciting because it's nice not to see just the same faces over and over, you know, the way that we do in a lot of the sort of bigger name Hollywood titles. It's like the same actor is cast in all of the things and you just always see them. And it's nice to see some fresh faces in this. And of course, I am happy to see Charlie Hunnam in this. I did have the immense pleasure of meeting him when he came to Denver for Fan Expo, and he is absolutely one of the most kind and humble and just welcoming individuals that I have ever met, and I absolutely would support him. I know he is not going to be acting for very long. At least that is what he said at Fan Expo, that he wants to step away from acting and do more producing and more directing. And he is a producer in this show as well. So that is pretty nice to see. So those are my thoughts on Shantaram. I would love to know what yours are. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family. And I hope to see you in the next episode.